Hi, everybody, and welcome to the HCD VidCast. This is episode 19 of our Curious Conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about augmented reality, AR, as you might have heard of it, and we're going to launch right in after we do a couple of introductions. So, without further ado, my name is Michelle Niedziela. I am VP of Research and Innovation here at HCD and the Behavioral Neuroscientist on staff. And I'm joined, as always, by Kathryn Ambroze. Kathryn?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Yep, Kathryn Ambroze here. I am the Manager of Behavioral and Marketing Sciences at HCD. And we just want to thank you for joining us on the 19th episode. It's been a lot of fun to have these episodes, and I feel like this topic in particular is really up and coming and very timely, so very excited to cover it. But before we dive into augmented reality, I'm going to let Michelle share.
Yeah. Who are we? We are HCD, a research house that really is grounded in holistic understanding of the consumer, so how they perceive, evaluate, and respond to different stimuli, be it the early stages of exploration all the way through the end stages of validation of maybe your products, product development, or maybe marketing mix. We use a combination of tools called applied consumer neuroscience, which could entail anything from psychological testing to neuroscience and physiological measures, all combined with traditional market research. Our research is global. We can do it anywhere in the world, either in person or online. So that's a little bit about us. But to start off with our conversation, one thing you may not know, those of you that have listened to us in the past, is that Kathryn and I are actually part of the innovation team for HCD. And so we're always looking at the new technologies and new approaches that are out there and seeing how we can apply it to research. So, a lot of people have heard of AR or VR, right? So virtual reality or augmented reality. But, for the way Kathryn and I approach things is really, okay, how can we use this to understand people better? So it's a slightly different perspective than, you might be thinking of when you think of AR and how it's been used. But that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is AR? What is augmented reality? Literally, we're talking about taking reality and adding something to it, augmenting it, right?
Exactly, right. So augmented reality lets people basically experience the world differently by having objects seen in the real world actually be augmented with more information from the augmented reality technology. So along with the physical world that you're immersed in 24/7, the phone or projector or AR set can add extra components to it to basically help the augmented components be seen, and they're really added through software programming. So the sky is really the limit when it comes to augmented reality.
So this is really different from virtual reality in that in virtual reality, you're totally immersed, right? So you put on the headset, it completely has control over what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and sometimes, some other, haptic type of sensations that you might have, right? So that's a totally fake world that you're put in to experience. Augmented being different, that, you see these people on the screen that have the headsets on. Well, those glasses are not like VR glasses where you're totally having your vision made virtual. Instead, you can see the world around you, right? It's just something's being added to it.
Exactly. So I feel like a really good way to explain the virtual world is that the entire environment, when you do virtual reality, the entire environment is pixelated. Whereas with augmented reality, there's only certain components that are. So
it's a little more simple, right? So you don't even have to have a headset to technically be in AR. You can have glasses that are adding things to what you're seeing, but you can also have your phone add things, right?
Of course. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of apps from the App Store are now taking advantage of that too, and adding a lot of augmented features to maybe their games or to their maps in their stores and things like that. So it is becoming a very up and coming thing.
Really just part of life now.
Oh, absolutely. And that's great because a lot of times with VR, there can be a little hesitation where novice people may feel nauseous or uncomfortable.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky. So augmented reality is lucky because you don't have to get re-immersed essentially because your world stays the same.
It's more comfortable essentially.
Yes. And one thing I do want to mention here before we hop on to the next slide is we will be referring to augmented reality in terms of vision. So we'll be, thinking about things in terms of visuals such as consumer goods or products. But in general, when you're talking about AR, you can have something be augmented, including smell or sound and sight. So it's really not limited, but yeah.
Because
So
they have like 4D movie theaters, right? So you can go in and they will filter in smells, or they will splash you with mist,
I
or
mean,
your chair
even
might shake, right?
yeah, exactly. Even in this picture on the right with the car, if the engine is revving in the top photo, that is another example of having an additional feature being augmented.
Right.
So
Or even
just
when
like,
if you're playing a video game, controllers that you use, in your hands, they can vibrate, right?
right,
And that kind of gives you the sensation of maybe it's driving the car and you're driving over something, or it's to let you know something's going on in the game.
exactly.
So it is pretty prevalent in lots of different applications. So I think, there's some, we've got a couple examples here, but one thing I want to touch on that really brings it into light how prevalent it is in your life already is if you think of Snapchat, right? So the
So
filters,
true.
yeah, the filters that you use, or even the filters for Instagram to sort of change that reality of the thing you took a picture of, that is augmenting a reality. You're adding something to it. You're adding cat ears onto your head, changing, the color of your eyes or color of your hair, whatever it might be. And, I have a toddler daughter, and I don't know what the psychological implications are of this are, but I took pictures of our living room and had Santa Claus inserted in. So it looks like he's actually there. And I showed it to her the next morning, telling her on Christmas Day, and like, look, Santa was here. And,
That's so sweet.
it's sweet, but it's also like a new level of lying, right?
Oh, we should have had a warning that don't have toddlers around while you're listening.
Yeah. Warning, content warning. We will talk about Santa Claus potentially not being real. Yeah, so that's like a new level of messing with people, right? So you can make it all my in-laws, like all the adults in our family, they thought we had paid someone to come over and dress up as Santa
Oh,
Claus.
wow.
So you can really trick people, right?
That's so true. And I think because it's become so accessible that it normalizes it to be so easily used. So, when everyone first started, when Snapchat first released their filters, I remember everyone being so excited about this. And and now I feel like it's almost become the norm where people will have full on, maybe story time or something on Instagram where they'll have the filter on the whole time, or they'll even have disclaimers saying, I have a filter on, this is the filter that I'm using, things like that.
Or going the opposite way and claiming natural, so hashtag no filter, right?
Right, exactly. So it's interesting because AR does enhance the natural environment by having that additional content that's added to it. But from the perspective of the consumer, I think there's also a different value in that interaction. So you can now experience products in this unique way, whereas the product could even be Santa Claus coming to your house. That's, that service is now at your fingertips, where you can just take a picture of your living room and all of a sudden, you had your paid actor come through.
Spider-Man in this case. And I remember there one being that you could take pictures of at the outdoors and have these giant cats that you could place around, right?
Yeah.
To make it
They're
look like a giant
creative.
cat. Yeah. But there's more practical applications than just these fun, tricky things, right? So you've got some other things on here, like trying out a color, right, for your eyeshadow, which, otherwise you'd have to just buy it and try it on, or maybe, go into, Macy's or something and have someone apply it to you. But you could just take a picture of yourself and apply it using augmented reality.
Right. And there's many companies that have become really early adopters of AR, and they've seen impressive returns on investing in the technology. So companies like Nestle's, I know, has been really heavily interested in AR, and so has Overstock.com, where they've actually seen returns drop because of the use of AR, but also increases in purchases, and the amount of time that people are spending deciding if they want to buy it or not has declined, because now they can see faster if it's a good fit for their living room, say something, if you're buying
or even the color of your wall, right? So you can change the color of your wall to see if you really want something that dark or if an accent wall is going to work, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing to mention here is that from the consumer experience, there's an opportunity for advertisers to really be able to promote sales and company brand awareness through having these filters and then having their logo on the side, or having their brand be incorporated into the filter. So I've also seen that a lot actually through Snapchat, where, I don't know, Outback Steakhouse or something will have a filter, and it'll be, you sipping on something.
It's basically place your ad here, right?
Yeah.
So sponsored filters for Snapchat. Absolutely.
So it's people are getting creative. That is safe to say.
But that's really more in the sales area, or a lot in the fun area, right? Given that we are research people, we really want to find the application for consumer research or for market
We're in the
research.
Extra fun area.
Yeah, the extra fun, the cool side. And that's been a little bit different, so a lot of times when we talk to clients about VR, AR, it's really hard for them to find a place for it in research, but there's definitely a place for it, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you could think about things like ad testing being really heavily influenced by AR, that there's the opportunity for people to have a 3D ad campaign to see the product physically in the environment the consumer wants to see it. And then have them answer questions about it to help you get an understanding of what this product is lacking or what this product is really succeeding in. So that's a really, useful application of it. But then there's also, from my perspective, as one of the hats I wear as a technician, is that you could really make quick changes while in research and while in fielding by just changing the programming of the stimuli. So you wouldn't have to worry about prototypes being shipped over or meeting regulations or anything like that.
Or even the cost of making prototypes, right?
So it's those, and those costs add up really quickly. So when you have a prototype that maybe it needs some slight adjustment or something, it makes it a lot easier if you can just go and make some quick changes on the back end rather than have to wait through the whole process again of wasting time and money.
Now, another place I've seen this applied in some market research is having people be able to do shop-alongs, basically. So in shop-alongs, typically you have the person come into a store and someone has to walk with them and interrupt them and ask them questions. Whereas one application I saw at a market research conference was someone wearing AR glasses, like Google Glasses, essentially, and being told, okay, go to your local convenience store and buy a iced tea, right? And so they basically recorded as they were going, and the glasses are able to capture different pieces for research purposes, right, of what they saw, and the person could talk along how they were making their choice. So that's a really interesting way of doing kind of qualitative research, right, to see what people are doing when they do shopping.
Right. And to kind of follow that up, there's also the opportunity for consumers to build their ideal products in front of the researcher, kind of as you see here. Maybe you want the couch not in green, but you want it in pink or blue or something. You can easily have the consumer manipulate it and do a little bit of a system 3, what's your ideal type of research.
And all of that's data.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room there for exploration, and really it's almost like a choose your own adventure market research where they can decide, what they like, this or that more.
Right. So it could be a totally new form of doing research, like, for example, that, taking out the shop along and having someone just record their own shopping. Or it could be something where you augment what you already do. So now you're just sort of replacing the prototypes that you would have tested, right?
Right.
And you can just superimpose them anywhere. So it is kind of an interesting tool to see how you could apply it to the actual research side and not just the consumer facing salesy side, right?
Yeah, if you look at the photo with the tomato, I think it's important to also mention that there could be nutrition facts that can be augmented onto someone's platform for their app or something like that. And you can also see what the people are looking at, what extra information that is useful when it comes to the information that's being requested, and how much that information actually influences that buying decision too. So there is so many places where it could be, like you said, it could be maybe an image, but it could also be the text or the information provided to help understand that whole product experience.
Absolutely. So it is more than just a really fun thing to be able to play Pokemon, right? So those of you that aren't familiar with playing Pokemon Go, basically it's on your phone and the phone will vibrate when a Pokemon is near you, and you hold up your phone and you suddenly see this monster in your front yard, right? And you have to capture it.
I haven't played, I have to be honest.
Well, during this whole like quarantine lockdown thing, I played a little bit with my toddler. She had a lot of fun with it, and like suddenly being able to see, oh, there's a monster in the yard,
That's awesome.
So it's more than just like this fun thing, and more than just Snapchat, right? More than just an Instagram filter. There's real things you can do with AR.
Right. And so we kind of touched on this already, but the idea of collaboration and innovation is so important, because even just from the product development side of understanding the benefits of AR, you really do have that freedom to make changes on the fly and make these changes quickly through the coding experience. And that follows also that rapid visualization. Is you could have 3 different stimuli that you have already had programmed and expose the person to it relatively quickly. For example, if you had an aisle that you're testing, rather than have to break it down, put a new aisle up, break it down, put a new aisle up, you can easily just through switching the stimuli that is already programmed, just go right through it with relatively simple ease. So that's another huge benefit of it.
Absolutely.
And then a couple other things that we could touch on is just increased time to market, is the idea that with the prototypes, where instead of going back and forth a million times about if the physical prototype is just right, you can just, like I said, go back to programming and fixing a couple of things to make sure that it is ideal. So that really increases your efficiency, and the iterations of the products can be designed so much faster and include new dimensions so much more quickly and so much more efficiently. And that really does help the product innovation research team grow, and also allow the consumer to change the product and the concept so that they have that quote unquote perfect product.
Right. So you can imagine doing any sort of shelf testing with a new package design, right? So you could pretty easily see whether or not people are really reacting positively towards it before you would have to manufacture a bunch of it. In particular, I'm thinking of when Tropicana had the issues with their package redesign, right?
Right. Exactly. And then we kind of touched on these, but low investment with high fidelity, the projected consumer engagement. And then when we have the idea of reviews, the ins and outs, you can see it upside down, you can see it forwards and backwards. So that's the really cool thing about augmented reality, is that you can go through the hassle of seeing every part of the product from the inside and really review it. A lot of uses of augmented reality in the space of education is where people are maybe looking at the human body and they're, slicing it up and looking at different organs. And that's not something you could do so easily and so accessibly. And now that's available at your fingertips. So when we say reviewing the ins and outs, you could do that for really any product that you're interested in, which is a really great advantage.
Absolutely. And it is cheaper than doing something like VR, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because VR is that 360 pixelated experience, it is
much
very,
more
very expensive.
intense. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so what's going to happen next? I think it's just becoming more prevalent in our lives, right? I think, we've kind of been easing into it with the filters and social media, the games that are being played, the haptics that are being added to all sorts of things in our lives. And really the next step is what?
I mean, it's the next step, I think, really is just seeing it being further normalized in our research designs and further really, it's further normalized in the consumer space where now you can have a little bit more of an intimate experience with that product because you're trying it out in your home first rather than trying it out at a store. So
it can become the norm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also it's the timing of VR is really having a great moment right now because we are in a period that people are trying to stay at home and take extra concerns to try to stay at home. So,
so if there's anything you can do and figure out before you go to the store, you can imagine if you wanted to go to IKEA or Walmart or something to buy a new piece of furniture, you could try it out in your home and then you wouldn't be so afraid to order online, right?
Exactly.
So maybe even totally online stores like, a Wayfair or something like that. You wouldn't be as afraid to go ahead and spend that $500 on whatever, large furniture it is because you've seen it in your home.
Right. So it really is revolutionizing the consumer space in that regard. And I think that because of this period of extra concern, people will be more likely to adopt it quicker in their lives and, try to limit their exposure to going to the store and just having it shipped to their house.
Yeah.
So this is very, very, like we've been saying, it's up and coming, it's exciting. And I think that augmented reality really is just going to be going up from here.
When we were talking about this conversation before having it now, you had mentioned the 3D representations that could sort of be brought into your reality. And I couldn't help but think of Back to the Future. And, the sort of online joke is that Back to the Future is actually, as a movie franchise, has really anticipated a lot of the innovations we have now, whether or not they anticipated it or developers are looking to Back to the Future to come up with their new ideas. I can't help but remember the scene when he's in the future and there's like an advertisement for Jaws 33.
Oh my gosh. Right.
And he's walking in the street and like a shark jumps out at him, right? Like 3D. And so that's an augmented reality right there.
Oh, absolutely. It's really, we will see what happens. It's going to be coming. And I think, like you mentioned, maybe we should rewatch that movie for a couple more sneak peeks about what's coming.
Absolutely. So I think what we're going to see is more use in research and in just in selling as well, applications for, online retail, all those sort of things. Maybe even media, right? So another way to experience your TV.
Yeah.
So this is a fun conversation, a little bit, different than some of our others. It's fun to explore these, new technologies that are out there that are really becoming prevalent in our lives. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, please click like. Like this video and subscribe just below this video. Reach out to us, with our emails or tweet with us on Twitter. Visit our blog where Kathryn and I and some other guests have written all sorts of random things and thoughts. And please link with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you join us again for our next conversation. And hope you enjoyed it.
Yep, stay tuned. So again, like Michelle mentioned, please, if there's anything that we may have missed or didn't cover on this topic or haven't covered in the VidCast, reach out and let us know what you're interested in.
Or comment below.
Yep, exactly. So until then, take care.
All right, take care.